Welcome to the In the Beginning Incubator webinar. We're thrilled to have you join us for this special event where we celebrate the journeys of ambitious entrepreneurs who have turned their visions into reality. Join us every Tuesday as we spotlight incredible clients who have navigated the entrepreneurial landscape and emerged victorious. Each session is more than just a conversation. It's an opportunity to learn firsthand from business owners who have faced challenges, embraced innovation, and achieved remarkable success. Whether you're launching a startup, scaling your business, or refining your strategy, these webinars will provide you with practical advice and real-world knowledge to guide your path forward. Stay engaged and get ready to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit. This is your chance to connect, learn, and grow with a community of like-minded visionaries. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our host for this powerful series, Mr. Christian Johnson, the Chief Strategist Officer of In the Beginning Incubator. As a seasoned business strategist and mentor, Mr. Johnson has played a pivotal role in guiding entrepreneurs through the complexities of business ownership. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Christian Johnson. Welcome to the In the Beginning Incubator webinar. We're thrilled to have you join us for this special event where we celebrate the journeys of ambitious entrepreneurs who have turned their visions into reality. Join us every Tuesday as we spotlight incredible clients who have navigated the entrepreneurial landscape and emerged victorious. Each session is more than just a conversation. It's an opportunity to learn firsthand from business owners who have faced challenges, embraced innovation, and achieved remarkable success. Whether you're launching a startup, scaling your business, or refining your strategy, these webinars will provide you with practical advice and real-world knowledge to guide your path forward. Stay engaged and get ready to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit. This is your chance to connect, learn, and grow with a community of like-minded visionaries. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our host for this powerful series, Mr. Christian Johnson, the Chief Strategist Officer of In the Beginning Incubator. As a seasoned business strategist and mentor, Mr. Johnson has played a pivotal role in guiding entrepreneurs through the complexities of business ownership. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Christian Johnson.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
Fine.
Hello.
How are you? Good.
Wonderful.
Thank you for joining us today. Our part two of Talking Generational Wealth with Miss Deneen Stanley. Sharnae is not on today, but it is still me and Miss Johnson on. And we are here today. And on what's today? Is it May 13th?
Yes.
Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. And we're excited to be here to continue the conversation that we had the week before last.
Yes.
I think where we left off last time, we were talking about a lot of family stuff, but Miss Johnson's kind of gonna guide this conversation today because she didn't talk a lot last time, and I know she had an agenda of things that she wanted to get through.
All right.
So,
Sounds good.
So I'm gonna let her kind of take over and let her kind of guide the conversation direction we want to go to. There's a lot of we didn't get into the finance part too much. A little we kind of did, but we didn't get in depth with it. We're talking more about the family side and the relationships and the working as a family unit in your business. But we are here, and I'm gonna let Miss Johnson, and I'm gonna let y'all introduce yourselves again. So Miss Stanley, you go ahead and introduce yourself, and Miss Johnson, introduce yourself, and then you can take over after that.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Deneen Stanley, and I am the I hail from Washington, D.C., from an amazing family of 5. Stanley and Martha is my Minor is my mom's maiden name, and Stanley is our family name. And I am the CEO of my business called Deneen's Executive Services, and also the deputy director for an organization we founded, a nonprofit in honor of my mom called the Stanley House of Love. And I'm happy to be here today and to be part of this conversation.
Thank you. Well, I'm Evelyn Johnson, and I am the CEO of In the Beginning Incubator. And I'm opening up in this space as we're expanding our thoughts of family and family business and welcoming individuals into our space, because ITB is a family-run business. It didn't start in that space initially, and we didn't know how that would look. But we're going to talk about the different dynamics. And it's so crazy. that week that we had the conversation on with you, um, 2 days after that, we were going to have the men's the actual return as citizens conversation. But actually, new clients came in and was like, "I just want to talk about that. I want to talk about what you talked about last Tuesday." Christian, is
Wow.
correct? They were like, "We just want to see what's going on with individuals and how you're doing this dynamic and how you're working this process." And as Christian said, we didn't get into enough of the information of the
Mhm.
process last time. We just kind of gave our stories, and our stories are great stories. And I don't want to take away from any of that. But I want to make sure that folks understand that this is a mind shift for most families and most
Mhm.
individuals. And I was reminded of that from one of the young ladies that came in and said, "I want to do exactly what this is. And I need to know, how do I broach my family? Because
Mhm.
now I'm the one taking care of grandpa. I'm doing that. That's my space. I operate in that. And I'm doing things to support the longevity of the family, but I'm not necessarily building this infrastructure in place and doing all of the things to get that in place, nor having the conversations for, okay, so what's next? Because grandpa is going to pass or grandma is going to pass. And what are we going to do with the land and how are we going to do that and all of those things and having those conversations. So it was really interesting to see how many people actually responded to this process and this conversation because the conversation is so important to have. So that is where we kind of we at the last space we left off with um a lot of whys, our whys.
Mhm.
Now we're going to go into our how. And one of the things that I want to emphasize is that um when you start treating your family as a business, you can build generational wealth. I think that's the statement I need to just lay out there. You start looking at family, and let me tell you something. Families start and family businesses start for most um, a lot of different types of communities and other religions and things of that nature in that space. I know a lot of African tribes, part of their union is a dowry. And what is what's the money being brought to for this union together to build this union? And what are we combining? And I know in some I think Arabic religions is the same concept, and a bride is chosen based on the financial wealth of the family and family she's connected with, and so is the husband. That whole process. And I don't think, as Christians and as Black Americans, because we have been robbed of so many key components of what family could look like, just from the generations of just having to start from slavery. I think we're in a space right now that we can pull from whoever, the concepts from wherever we need to pull from to build what it is that we need what we need our family business to look like. And so that is where this conversation tonight is going to go, more into the finances, more into having the conversation, and more into thinking about family as a business. A lot of folks, I had the pleasure of watching that movie this weekend, a series on Netflix called Forever. And it was really good because to me, as a Black mother with a Black son, they were emphasizing, when we put our kids in these situations that we think are better, and it was the whole PWI process, predominantly white institutions. When you put them in those spaces, you start to put them in a place where they can choose other races and things of that nature, because you start to expand their options for them. And in that series, I don't know if you saw it, but one of the pivotal pieces in the series was that the young man started dating and a dark skinned girl that looked like the mother. And she was really happy because that meant the Black family, the way she thought it, the family
Mhm.
that she wanted was going to be potentially, to continue on. And at least he was thinking in that headspace. And, so I don't know, how that ends, but it was just a good headspace for me to start with this conversation, because it is not, family is what we make it. Everybody's family is very different. It doesn't have to be who you're born into. In Virginia, we have a lot of family because we're not from Virginia, but we also have a lot of family across the country. And we are blessed to have a good foundation with family on my mom's side and my dad's side, which is a good, it's a good starting point for us. So again, this concept of family businesses, and we're getting ready to dive deep into it, because Denise, you're going to talk about it, and Christian, you're going to chime in, especially with the ITB perspective, because this is our first experience with it, ITB as a family, and the dynamics of introducing it. Because even though it's in my family, in my household, my mom, my dad, my first cousins, everybody that is around me, my second and third cousins that know my life and that know what we're doing, they know this is a part of it, and now they're a part of it. Even if they're just watching tonight on the live, they're intentionally making sure that they're tapping in to what's going on with ITB to figure out how to be a part of this process and how we are going to grow. So one of the first things is a family, looking at your family as an economic unit. And I think having some of the conversations in that headspace, the young lady that said to me, I needed to know more from ITB about how do I broach the conversation. That's how you broach the conversation. I think you start the conversation with inclusivity, and having conversations in verbiage, and start using things like we and us, and how we're going to build this together, and what are we going to do when this happens, and not being scared of having those questions. So what do you think with that, Denise?
I think that's absolutely the starting point, because it's no man is an island. And I think the wonderful thing that our family does understand is that we can do it better together. One of us can take one thing, but we only have one. I think I would go to the scripture that said a cord of three bands is not easily torn apart. So when we reach inside and encourage and use what we have in the family, we'll find that we are already wealthy.
Yeah. And one of the first conversations that kind of pushed us even more into having a conversation was the prepping process. And prepping for in the eventuality of an emergency. And that was the very first steps for our family, and incorporating other family units into the process. How does that look? And we started sharing information. We started sharing all of our prepping ideas, and what I was bringing, what are you bringing? And okay, so if it goes down, and say we're in this part of the country, whose house are we going to go to? If it goes down and we're in this part of the country, whose house are we going to go to? And are we fortifying each other's houses in areas, so that if a prolonged situation happens and I can't go home, or I am, and I have to help some people here in my home, what can we do? And that was one of the first ways that we started the conversation of the we, us, our process, especially with my first cousins on my mom's side. We already are pretty clear with where we're going, and who's coming to Virginia, who's going to here, and who's going to there. But Denise, when you came into office, we had a very interesting conversation.
Yes.
Creating a network.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I have cousins that are in between North Carolina and Virginia, here and there. And we were like, well, what if they need to they're on their way to Virginia, and they need to stop at a location that we know is the safe place.
Yes. And my when we got back home, my daughter and I continued that conversation as we're looking forward to how we will build that network, how we will share information. Because when we talk about family, it's beyond our bloodline, and it reaches into an area that we have in common. And I think if we think about COVID and the experience during COVID and how it forced some people to reach outside of their comfort zone and look into the community and see was there somebody didn't have water. I have water here. But at this point, we have an opportunity to plan better in case of an emergency. So I think just we're looking forward to the blueprint. That's what Andrea was asking me. Did we get the information? Did we get the list, the checklist? So
I didn't create it. Yeah, I haven't created it yet. We have been in.
Yes.
Today, I kind of even didn't do a whole lot of work. I just kind of mentally prepared for this evening because it is a lot to wrap your mind around.
I wanted to chime in. I think what a lot of people, and like Ms. Deneen is asking about the how, and I don't want to steer the conversation into. I don't want it to go into a different direction. I wanted to really get into the how and how we actually are doing it.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't want to sugarcoat how we're doing it and how we are as a family doing it. So most of you, I don't know if everybody watching, we had a Kiva loan information session a few weeks ago, and we had our partners from the Metropolitan Business League come in and talk to us about the Kiva loan process and how to get access to capital, and because in order for you to function and run your business, you need access to capital.
Yes.
And we're doing that process now. Now, each business model is different. Our business model, we're a for-profit business, so we have different funding streams through our memberships, through our services, through our office rentals, and through the grant that we worked with Langston. And with that grant, that was a $6 million grant, and we get $350,000 for a span of 5 years. And that's one thing that's one way, being outside the box. We just had a Abigail Spanberger partner with our business to have a round table. It wasn't really a round table, it was more like a forum. And I just got off the phone with the individual from the campaign and said we might need to change the name because what we had was more of a forum, not a round table. But it was very important to have that conversation because there were a lot of different people at the table discussing different organizations and their organizations that they work with, and how all these organizations conceptually do the same thing, but don't really do what ITB does. But I say that to say the hand-holding piece that we do with a lot of our clients is really important. And this Kiva's information session that we did have, I think that opened the doors for a lot of people. We are currently doing the loan now. And Ms. Johnson, I want you to talk about that and talk about the application process, how it has been from your experience thus far, and kind of give an idea, because we help with the applications. We help you do the application, and we're doing it just like everybody else is doing it. So I want everybody listening, if you have a small micro business, then and you're interested in access to capital, this is one of those ways you can access capital. And there's other means as well that we have a series of things that we have that are going to be publishing throughout the summer that we'll be getting into. But the first step is this first primary, I need this amount of money, I need this, and this is how I can do. So talk about Kiva, Ms. Johnson, talk about our partnership with Kiva, and we're a Kiva trustee. So if you are interested as an entrepreneur or a business owner, you want to apply for a Kiva loan, you can do it through us. You can go on our website at inthebeginningcode.com and go to the ITB loans tab and start your application today.
Okay.
But Ms. Johnson, I want you to talk about that process, and then we're gonna get into the other side of the family process of what we're doing as a family to also raise capital. Because I don't want to keep sugarcoating it. We had the family talk, like I said, we had the family talk,
Yes.
And this is real business now, and we talk about the finances, and I don't want to keep beating around the bush about
Yes.
we getting the money now, and how y'all gonna run the money, how we getting the money,
Yeah.
how you
That's
get
the
the
real
money, and
part.
how you manage the money.
Mhm.
Right. And that is most of everything that you're saying. And I can kind of wheel us back and bring us back in. That goes to the looking at your family, like I was saying, as an economic unit. And I'm talking about everyone that's connected to you and that wants to be connected with you, this process with you. And so, as I said, the young lady asked, how do you have the conversation? You just start the conversation. Wherever you are, that's where you started. And, but one thing that I like to do when I start conversations that I know are going to be challenging is I already have some solutions and some options. And not that they have to be the blueprint or the black and white, this is what we have to do. But once you start throwing out ideas of your how and how we're going to get this done, everyone will start their brain to start moving in that same direction. So ideas will start to fly and they'll come in. And that's the good starting point. Let's have a conversation, because let me say this. When we, even with the prepping process, and I told my cousins that are here, and I told my sister-in-law and them that are here, they came over. So what we doing? So what you got? Well, okay, this is what I got. This is what I got. So your house is going to be the meeting place. This is where we going. If something go down, you got extra this, you got extra that. This is what's going to happen, and we're going to come together. That's in that space. Another thing is you start looking at your resources.
Yes.
In Virginia, with our group and our family, Christian, Julian, and my husband, and it's a bunch of women here, but those are only 3 men. That's a big difference. That is a thing. That's a resource that you need to figure out how, when you need physical manpower to do certain things in this process, who's stepping up to that. And all of those things matter, as well as the finances. And I'm finding, and I'm looking at this Kiva loan process. And if your business is set up as a business and generational building process, you can still go after a Kiva loan, because all you have to do is establish a 501, set up your tax ID number for your family business, just like any other regular business. You're setting up and doing all of the paperwork the same way. So with your structure is still the same. And I would still say do a LLC. You can have it as an optional, as a nonprofit, but if you decide your business, if your family is going to make money, especially using insurance policies, and what I say with insurance policies, if everybody in your family has an insurance policy and the beneficiary on your insurance policy, on those insurance policies, are tied into the family business, if something happens to somebody, the money from the policy goes to the business to structure and to fund the business. And that is one way. That is one way to fund your business. My parents had at the end of last year, and both of my parents are still alive, and I'm grateful to have them still here. And I told them, I'm going to take out a policy on you, both of y'all. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to do anything with it. But I'm going to take out the policy so that if and when something happens, you are given into the legacy, not just your insurance that you want to give to us and this and that's that. You're investing in the longevity of this business, even though you're not necessarily part of the business per se. And I asked that of both of my parents, and they said, okay, well, because I've gotten calls from my dad and said, well, what's your social security number and what's this? And I'm like, well, why you need to know all of that? And he's like, well, I'm doing some stuff for you and setting it up. I didn't know. The other side of that is, I was saying we're setting up a family trust to my dad. And I'm thinking, I'm telling my dad and my mom about this, but they're telling me, oh, yeah, we set it up already. We have a trust. And I'm like, but you didn't tell me, and who's part of the trust and how. The trust don't supposed to die when you die. So if I don't know and my brother don't know, what's the point of having a family trust? So just starting to have those type of conversations is where you start, wherever you are. And no matter what you're thinking, if you want to, and we definitely came to it from a family prepping to protect ourselves in the eventuality or case of an emergency. So that was how we started as a bigger family union. ITB didn't start that way. I didn't even know we were starting this process, honestly, with ITB when we started it. So that is one thing that I think we need to make sure we address. And don't be difficult, don't be uncomfortable having conversations with your family that comes to the table. Now, everybody's not going to come to the table. Some people, you know how your family is. Some people gonna wait and see how this happens and see what happens here and do with that, and then they'll come to the table and then they'll see what they can bring in, and they, it's games. Everybody plays games because it's all power struggles. But once the Lord, and I think the Lord is a big piece of this element too. You got to pray for the wisdom to have these conversations and to know what is to be said and how it's to be said. So once God steps into it, he sends and he leads this whole process. So it's not anything that anyone has to be taken over. It is a natural process when a need arises. And budgets, roles, and governance of that process have to be established. And it's not established based on how I think you do. It's established on, I can do this. Someone volunteering and saying, this is the space I occupy and I think I'm good at it. When my first cousins, we started doing our genealogy search and we did the ancestry.com process and all of that. One cousin said, I feel like I want to research this and do all of that space. And I was like, I don't have time to be on ancestry.com. I don't have time to do all of that. And so she said, well, this is how much the website costs. We all cash apped her the money. You set up the website. You set up our family stuff. You can give us access to it or you can keep access to it. But when we want to know questions and when we have questions and we need answers, we're coming to you to do that. But you run that process. And so the little things, and then you can tap in, I think are important to say the how we get this done process.
Yes.
And that's 3 different spaces that I just covered. The prepping space, the genealogy space, and then just the overall, I don't want things to die out when my parents die out space.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Definitely I concur. And I think within the family, as we talked about earlier, is people understanding their strong points. My sister and I are deputy director of the organization that we have, the Stanley House of Love. The brothers, they have their part. They support what we do. They put in their money when it's time to put in money. They come and, as you say, contribute physically. So it's as a Christian said, most importantly, money answers all things. So we can't, these ideas and all these wonderful things that we have, we come up with 1,000 ideas per minute. But how do we make that happen? And that's the money part. So I missed the Kiva loan information, but I know that's something that we need, but with our family, we all recognize one of us is okay, but 5 of us putting in our share, whether it's financial, whether it's resources, whether it's a connection that we know, whatever it may be, it's all for that overall cost, that overall objective and the sustainability of the family wealth and the family legacy. How do we sustain? Sometimes we find out grandpa and them are gone, and then there is this piece that's left over that nobody knew about. So nobody was paying taxes on, nobody was doing the part because of a lack of communication. And I think that part right there, like you said, with your mom and dad, with whoever it might be, if you're doing something that is going to benefit the family, even if it's your immediate family, let's talk about what's going on. So in case of an emergency, if a mom and dad happen to leave together and they leave their children, who is the person that knows what the next step is to make sure our nieces and nephews are protected? Even within a family, we can't just be in our own nucleus because we have to be able to be here for each other. So I think continuing the process and communicating And as you said, treating your family like it is a business. You won't go to your credit union and borrow money for a car loan and not pay that back. So, one of the things in my mind is a credit union within the family, you know, that's something I feel like is doable. That's like cooperatives that they used to have. So let's, getting together and finding out who has what, who's connected to what. One of my dear cousins simply works at a place where they make plates. He said, next picnic, I'm supplying the plates. Right? So we have riches among us, and we just have to learn how to leverage what we have.
Exactly. And that, I believe that comes with having the conversations and being in a safe space, in a trusting space to have the conversations. Yes. And again, I believe that God piece is wrapped up in there, because it is not an easy thing to just trust, especially when you know certain things. And of course, these are the most, we know the most about these people. We don't know about everybody, but we know about these people.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so the one of the things that you can do, and with the business aspect of operating like a business, and Christian wanted to get into the Kiva loan process. Kiva is a great opportunity for a small business, a micro business, and most organizations in this space are small and micro. I'm pushing two different things. I am definitely thinking about the Kiva loan process, because that is crowdfunding. That gives you that gives you a space to build money and build wealth based on your influence in your family. So if everybody now, you say, okay, everybody give in $25.
That's right.
And we're going to hold everybody, we're not holding everybody accountable for it, but we're giving into this because this is all coming, not to me personally, but to this organization that our family has, that we've set up this business. We've set up this, and a business can be a holding. It doesn't have to be an actual, I'm selling something or I'm buying something or I'm importing anything. That's not the only definition of business. So a family business construct is it could be a holding company, and we're using the money to build wealth for our families and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
That can be a process. Go ahead.
One thing is, I got a message, and it's how do you establish the trust amongst your family? That is a part of the conversation side, because again, you start bringing the money in and you start having the conversations about the money and everything, and you start having those communication, right? You have communication with people, and then you start doing stuff might start going well, and then somebody do something, and it just kind of, and this is just the history of of African Americans. This one documentary I was watching, and I think in Louisiana, after slavery, some of the slaves were given plots of land where they were still indentured servants, but they still worked the land, right?
Yes.
And they got plots of land, and there was a law in place that said that if one family member chooses to sell their land, their parcel of land, all the rest of the land could go up for sale.
Whoa. Okay.
So, and this was in Louisiana, and and this happened to this one family, and this was generational. This was they worked the land, they were slaves, and they got the land after slavery had ended, and they continued to work. And this goes into a lot of the history where we were, as African Americans, we weren't taught to go into education. We weren't taught to go into school, into going to college and get your bachelor's and your master's and your doctorate. We were taught trade. We were taught to don't shake the status quo, just work your trade, do something with your hands physically, and don't do anything crazy. Don't be don't go and start trying to learn too much. Don't
Right.
travel too much. Like don't
think out of the box.
Right. Don't think out of the box. But that was intended to, you know, it's kind of like a crabs in a barrel type of mentality, which is a whole nother conversation that I don't want to kind of go in. But having that trust and being able to trust your family members and being able to trust going into it, because you could go into business with anybody. We go into business with a lot of people, and you sometimes you get burnt trusting somebody. Sometimes you go into business thinking they're going to do what they do. You pay them this money, and they don't do what they're supposed to do, and you out money, you out hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
Or in some cases, millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So as a family, one way we kind of established some trust within internally is honestly, like what Ms. Johnson said, is having the conversations. But if Charnay was on here, she would say therapy.
Okay.
She would definitely say therapy, individual therapy, and group therapy, so you can really understand how certain family members think.
Yeah.
You can understand their thought processes, and you can understand, you know, what things might tick them. They might have certain ticks. You might know things what not to say, and things to say, how to have conversations. You know, using your tools that you have. That's what our therapist always says: is use your tools. You have a certain set of tools. You have empathy. You can be empathetic.
Yes.
You can have grace for somebody, even if they're wrong. You can still have grace for somebody, and you know, communicate with them. So one piece, and I think establishing that type of trust amongst people is just asking them, you know, hey, maybe we could have a counselor come in and sit down with the family, just like you have with your attorney. You sit with your attorney and have the same type of conversation. So let's have a counselor come and sit in, and let's talk about this, and, you know, all that comes with unpacking trauma.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And stuff that family members had stuff going on. Yeah. Somebody did this to that person.
That's right.
And all that is trauma that could get unpacked. And you just have to be an adult and kind of handle those conversations. And I think with a lot of older generations, you know, that they had it a little bit more rough than my generation, and even my nephew's generation, being able to kind of take accountability sometimes and admit maybe we didn't do this well, and maybe we could have did this differently with that boomer generation. But definitely having a therapist in some type of mental health specialist and engaging with the mental health specialist is one way I would suggest building trust. Because if you're dedicated to it and you actually go through the process, then you can trust that I can do this. And then even if you go through the process and you learn more about somebody, you might know, well, maybe I can't trust you with the finances, but I could trust you with this part of the business.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe you won't fit over here, but I could let you run this part of the organization, right? And you learn what people's skills are. So I think that's one way of establishing a good trust system within your family and you know, within your organization.
And not being scared to have those conversations in the Black community. Not being scared to say a therapist is not because anybody's crazy. It's just because I need to understand what you're saying to me better, and I need to be able to communicate. And every time we talk, it doesn't have to be drama. It doesn't have to be an argument. It just has to be, because that is so enlightening when you understand a person's why.
Absolutely.
I understanding people's why gives you context to how you forgive, how you let things go, how it's okay. You know, all right, you know, and understanding that a person's trauma with money and trauma with lack creates that poverty spirit. And how do you break a poverty spirit? You prove this that everything is not about money, first of all, and then that money is for certain things, but it doesn't cover everything. And then it helps you to understand how to deal with them even better. So
Yes.
I think, Christian, that was a great one, because
Yes.
in order for us to start ITB, we were in family therapy. Then at one point, me and my husband went into therapy. And then at another point, my husband and me and my daughter went into therapy. And then me and my son went into therapy. We all had to have moments of how we try to figure out how to best serve, because I'm not letting them go. But everything can't be an argument, and we have to move forward. And so, yeah, Christian, I think that was a very, very good and a very honest, because in 2025 we got all kind of tools. We got all kind of tools.
Yes, ma'am.
And you can Zoom in with your therapist, and because me and my mother have been on with therapy. We have dealt with and another thing that Christian brought up that I thought was a good point was the generational thought processes and differences.
Yes, yes.
Because boomers, like my mom and my dad, their experience with things that are going on today versus coming through 1940s and 50s and 60s.
Right.
Their when my mama and I said, well, mama, go ahead and do this HELOC loan and do this and do that. She was like, no. That was it, because I know how this process can work. I lived it. I lived through 1940s, 50s, and 60s. So don't put your house up for nothing and this, that, and the other. And I'm saying, Mom, but this is an option for us.
Right.
And today, this is where we are. And it took time to explain it to her. But she came back around. Yeah. But I had to say, I understand where she coming from. Yes. She did live when Martin Luther King Jr. was alive. Right. She did live with John F. Kennedy, and she did live with some of the heavyweights that said and opened the Black community's eyes to fair and just treatment.
Yes, ma'am.
How that looks, even though we weren't getting it. So perspectives and being able to respect other people's perspective, as Christian also identified. Generationally, I said, the other day, I think I was talking to my dad on the phone. I talked to my mother and I said, last week, somebody from Abigail Spanberger's campaign said, well, why you don't work for us? Asking Christian. And I was like, okay, so the Democrats coming for my son, and someone from the Republican Party was like, well, I just love Charnay, and she can. And I was like, and the Republicans coming for my daughter, and they don't have no problem saying, I want one of them Johnsons to work with me. And I'm like, but they helping our business, and
right.
And I don't even know where that is the thought process, but it is still the dichotomy of a whole house. Because Charnay is very conservative, and she leans towards conservative thought. She's not in that space, but she can be more conservative than Christian. Christian's aggressive, but that is his generation. They come with the aggression. They want it done. They want it done right. They want it done quickly, and they want their voice heard. Yes. And they want it like your daughter was in. I could tell in Charnay and your daughter in the office, they hit it off perfectly, because that's right. That's their lane. That's them. Yes. But my grandson has no for nothing. No. My grandson is completely different. And so the generations are different, and someone at the table has to be able to say they're talking from their lens and their perspective, of their lived experiences of that generation, and we have to respect that and say, okay, we accept that, but okay, here's another option, and let's figure out how to blend both in. Let's see that. Let's see how we can get both of them at the table. And I think all of that builds a stronger relationship and bond within the family. Yes. And with each other. And that's how you establish trust. Because eventually, I don't care what you say. You're going to burn me one time. You're only going to burn me 2 times before I say, okay, I'm not going to do that, but I'm not going to hate you. But I ain't dealing with you with that.
You just now understand how to deal with this particular.
Exactly.
It's quiet. Sometimes it's loud, but I think understanding the why, even in that perspective, like why the great aunties why they won't put their money in the bank,
right? Right? Why that is a crazy thing. Why people don't? And somebody told me that recently, that they don't, like, somebody knew somebody who does not put their money in a bank account.
Yeah.
And just sits on and has cash sitting
Big
under the
cash.
bed with cash that you're not making money, you're not doing nothing, you ain't got it in my bank. I put my money in my savings. I'm making interest.
Right.
I look at my account and I'm looking
Let
at
it
how
grow while you're sleeping.
Oh, right. I'm getting dividends. That is those, but those are the conversations that people sometimes who are they don't know about things or
Yes.
are new to certain ideas that
Right.
they are just uncomfortable with. But you really have to sit and have those conversations.
Yes.
And you can tell when you're having conversations with somebody who is really just genuinely, I don't know, and you're just giving me a lot of information.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm not opposed to it, but I gotta really think about it. Right, I gotta process it. To me, this is straightforward. Like to me, this is straightforward. This is I do that. I did that when I was in high school, right? But to somebody else, it's like
foreign.
It's foreign, yeah, and it's
very foreign.
You gotta kind of give them that grace to kind of process it in a different way, especially when it comes to finances. And we've seen a lot of businesses that have come into a lot of money, right, and come into money and unfortunately either mismanage the money or don't legally do what they're supposed to do with the money that they have. And we with our board, with the Kiva loan, and Ms. Johnson said we as a family, we're doing the Kiva as a business, we're doing the Kiva loan. We are going to Good Soil, and we're going to pitch to Good Soil in Texas.
That's TD Jake's
that's TD Jake,
right?
exactly.
Yes. We met them actually in at Woman Evolve, and I signed up for them.
Right.
And like ITB is right there. I mean, it's there are organizations that start, like you said, Ms. Johnson, from that space of let me help you do this better. And it grows into that. So yes, I'm absolutely familiar with Good Soil, and it's good to have similar right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We're going. And
we're all going.
Okay.
Me, Ms. Johnson, and Charnay, we're all going. Next month. Yeah. And Ms. Johnson went last year.
Okay.
The year before, she loved it.
Yeah, I think we went in September, so we missed the thing, but that's good. Yeah.
Right, and it was so inspirational. But this time it's different. And I think either the year before, last year, we went to Oklahoma and we just went to TD Jake's church. And with the chain, and if you listen to TD Jake's, and he's no longer the pastor. I don't know if everybody knows that, but he has stepped down.
Yes.
And Torre and Sarah are both the co-pastors of the church now, and they're young, bringing young energy. And if you listen to what they preach about and the things that they did, the last time he spoke, TD Jake said, and I don't know if it was exactly this amount of acres, but he said as a church over his 40 years, he's how many acres was it? He said this church has 100 acres. How many acres?
Yeah, 100 and some acres. The church owns.
The church owns.
The business owns.
Yeah.
The church.
Across the world. The world.
Yeah.
As a church.
Yeah. It's that wisdom right there. When you think about, even thinking about, as we're talking about generational wealth, how, I grew up with storefront churches and we selling chicken dinners to raise money for the building fund that we still don't own, 100 years later.
Exactly.
But when bringing all that we have to the table, not just spiritual, but naturally, Solomon's wisdom was able to accumulate wealth. The virtuous woman, she growing stuff while her husband's sitting at the gates. Her ship's coming in. Right. So we are supposed to be in this space where we are bringing in what we need to do in our lifetimes, right? And I think like this discussion is about how do we do that, and how do we bring in those members of our family to benefit from
Right.
that, you know.
Right.
So I think this is a definitely a continuing conversation, you know, as we capture the Joshua generation along with the Moses generation. You know,
Right.
we have to bring it all together. And as you said, respect those and the spaces they're in and why they're in those spaces. Maybe you can keep some money in the house, but put something somewhere that is multiplying.
Exactly.
You know, where's the residual income going to come from when my baby girl needs to stay home because she has a special needs child? How
Right.
can we support her to do what she needs to do? Do we let her stay home? Maybe there's a daycare center auntie down the street gonna do to take care of the other children. What, you know, like I've seen this in my lifetime, and like you said, Ms. Johnson, on both sides of my family, and that's why for me, when I'm looking to do something, I'm coming to my family first. Like I don't want to have to go outside of my circle and find people to grow. People are out there to grow with your light, Christian. That's why somebody's saying, well, I need you over here with me. Because those gifts not unseen, you know, and just like all this property been taken from Indians, everybody else is like, well, I want that. We can all have what we need and still be okay without anybody being kicked to the curb.
Exactly.
You know, so I think growing in this space and being able to have clarity is what we get when we begin to communicate and as Ms. Johnson says, have the conversations.
Yeah.
And as a family with going to, I'm excited about that. I'm excited to go to Good Soil, and I feel like the way they really are business, their business.
They are straight up.
And I don't care what people politics think or TJ. I don't
Or your religion. I don't
care
care.
your
doesn't
religion.
matter.
I don't care what you think. I don't care. It don't matter to me which conspiracies you think is up. It don't matter.
Yes.
The church speaks for itself.
Yes.
I don't care about your opinion on mega churches.
It's so true.
It's like it works and it is what it is. And either you're gonna get on it or you're not, or you're just gonna miss the opportunity. And that's like that's to me, it's like a pride thing.
Yeah,
for certain people. But that's one thing. That's one way. As a family, we had to come together and kind of and figure that out.
Good.
And another way, and I don't know if we talked about it here, but we did talk about it when we met at the think tank for the think tank for return to citizens. We talked about the credit and getting and how this credit piece as well, because there's so many different pieces to when people think about finance, you just think about money or cash, but your credit is important too. And like for example, my father co-signed for my truck I just got. I wouldn't have been able to get the truck on my own if I didn't have my dad, who had a longer credit history, who just paid off 2 cars. And my grandma, she co-signed and did my student loans for me. And it's just like being able to go to them and ask for that, and then for me to actually accomplish what I need to do and graduate and get my degree and do what I need to do. It's just like, having those conversations and being able to address, okay, my credit, how are we gonna build the credit? And Ms. Johnson said another way of the it's different for everybody. And the fundraising part is different for everybody. It's different how you do it. It's different. You could come to us and we could write you a proposal for any bank. You want a bank loan, we could write the proposal for you. We work with banks and we partner with banks, and we can send you to the bank and write the proposal for you, and you could ask for a loan and have all the stuff and everything you need. And
or you could work with your family.
Or you can work with
your family, and you can set up a family trust. And family trusts are for profit. They can be you can put your business into a trust. There's a lot of options there, and we're not going to get into it tonight. We're going to have people on that can talk about it more specifically. But I can tell you this: when we as a family had our conversation with the wealth management specialist, exactly what you said, Deneen, is I want your family to be your own bank.
Yes, that's right.
And he was like, that's the key to it. And that's the first space that you operate in, is creating those streams of money coming in. Again, insurance policies work. They built this country. I don't care what. No, and in the Black community, everyone is shying away from having a conversation of, you're gonna die, but you are gonna die.
But you're gonna live too.
That is a guarantee. So we have to acknowledge that we're going to go through the pain. We're going to go through the missing you and all of that. But at the same time, when you die, I want your footprint still to be on this earth. I want to know. I feel very heartbroken personally. And I've known families that the husband has died and the son has died. Ooh. And I'm saying, and then he didn't have any kids. So that means your whole lifeline,
the legacy,
is gone. Both of y'all have left this earth, and now there is nothing.
Wow.
Because if you don't have the male, you don't have nothing to go on and pass down.
Right.
So true.
And my heart hurts when I hear stories of, and our old neighbor, the husband died, and then the son died, and now she's remarried. But those two are gone, and they're gone off the earth because the son never had any kids. He died, in a car accident early in his 20s. So I'm just like, are you? I look at that because that's a real thing for your whole family legacy to end at one point, like that, and within 2 to 3 years, like that. And the father died from a massive heart attack, and the son, again, like he passed in a car accident. And I looked at that, and I thought about that, and I think about that constantly because that's a reality that my family, no matter how big it is, one thing could happen, like COVID, took all of the generations of the family out of here and just marked off a family. But they never even existed on the earth.
Right.
And who's telling your story after that? So this is the reason why. And again, the Kiva loan is a good space to start, but it is a business loan. So your family has to be set up in a business structure. So I'm not going to pretend like, so you need to have a family trust, period, and put the business assets into the trust and all of that. However, that is a 0% interest loan. It's barely any kind of credit, and it is all based on crowdfunding.
Right. People, so we just did it.
Your concept, your idea, your thought process.
Right. We just did it, and we started it, and we finished the application. Now we're in the second step of the actual. Now we're gonna get the crowdfunding part, and that, as far as I'm concerned, is individuals within your organization or supporters of your organization pitch in.
Yes,
it could be like $25 from like 5-10 people.
Yes, absolutely.
And then they open it up to almost millions of people.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited.
Fund your business and fund your ideas. So that this is another thing in that idea of being a benefit corporation and being a social enterprise.
Yes.
You could have a family business, but your family business needs to be doing something to support your community. Absolutely.
Right. Impact matters, right? Like that is the biggest thing. And as I think we talked about at you guys at the office, it takes money to have an impact. Like so
there's no gray areas about it.
All of it.
It's that's how it's been. You look at all these, like Anderson Cooper. Is he's a Vanderbilt?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So all it's not. It's only like one. It's a few degrees of separation, like 1 or 2 degrees of separation from somebody's ancestor did this doing what we're doing now. Then, and we're just catching up to it.
It's so true.
It's not a hard thing to do. I don't want anybody to think it is hard because just think about it. If we all pulled our money together, and grandma, we know is getting ready, she's 90 something and she's going to be, and we said, we'll just put our money together to pay for her insurance policies and we'll take out a $500,000 policy on her.
Right.
And so when she does pass, that's the first lump sum of money.
Yeah.
Right.
That's coming
And
into the trust. Start to create our own family bank.
Yeah.
Right.
And that we can build from that.
Yeah.
And I know, again, those are hard conversations, and that's just a suggestion.
Yes.
But that is the reality.
Right.
And that is what this country, and when I tell you the Rockefellers, I'm telling you white families for years, this is how they built their wealth. They didn't build their wealth off of anything except a lot of them was just insurance policies.
Yeah.
And they made sure every time somebody in that family was born, they got an insurance policy. And they made
once
sure
they had their social security number.
That's exactly. And I understand that, like I said, Black people, we not that group that want to have that conversation.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, we have to start having the conversations combined with the credit, combined with the putting the money in the bank, and creating dividends and things like that. And I mean, funds to make residual income. Right. But it's also that conversation too, because we need the first lump sum.
Right.
And like you said, everybody operating in their area of expertise.
Exactly.
You know, I know I need numbers and understanding, but I'm gonna call up my numbers guy to let him be on that part. But if you need me to write the story about how the numbers are working, I can probably do that part.
Exactly.
Right.
That's how it is with ICB.
Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has strengths, and everybody and as a leader, it is your responsibility to know everybody's strengths and weaknesses and put them in the best position where they can be the most successful. And that is just as if you're a matriarch or patriarch in your family, that is something that you have to consider, when you are having these conversations, and when you are like Ms. Johnson said originally, our one cousin, she's responsible for doing the genealogy for everything. She did the ancestry for everything. So when the time comes and we need to ask, well, who was this? Who did this?
Well, that's this Saturday.
Right.
This Saturday we have a Zoom set up for family Zoom to discuss what did you find out? What did our grandpa on my mama's side, on my other grandma's side do? And because I don't know nothing about him, and who are these people? And so we are having those conversations combined into the need for growth, and those are natural next steps. Those are natural next steps in this process.
And you do all of that, the money conversations, they're just falling into place. And that money that first big lump sum of money, you make those investments. You invest. We plan to invest in real estate.
Right. You already have the plan in place before the money comes.
Right. Mm-hmm. Have a plan in place so you can just walk it out, have it done, have the budget for the investment that you're going to do, and whatever you do. And if you invest in stocks or whatever, however you choose to invest in stocks or bonds, or you want to do, I wouldn't say crypto, but however you choose to invest it, have a plan for that money. I work at a law firm in West Virginia, and the attorney, he manages the trust.
Yeah.
So when
I have an attorney up this way that opened my eyes and understanding about trust. So as we're having these conversations, it's like you said, we're catching up to some things, and some things I feel like our parents and grandparents, they had to focus on survival. So all this extra stuff, they were like, no, look, did you die? We got your hood.
Right.
We did.
Right. That's some harsh reality. That is Sometimes we have to say, you lived through it, you came through it.
Yeah.
And you have to wise us up to it. Those things, and that's why you're still here. And that's why you didn't. That's why certain people died and certain people didn't, because that's God's plan, and He wants you. You still got work to do.
You still have a purpose.
To figure that process
you still have a purpose, and you're giving your wisdom to the generations coming after you, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes and do the same things.
And try not to.
And try not to make the same mistakes, and we can learn from. Oh, well, you experienced that. these new something coming up new. We gonna look into that. We're gonna look. This seemed like a law. You talking about this law reminds you of a law that was implemented in this year.
Right.
So we need to sit and have a conversation about this, like stuff like that. Or this individual reminds you of some language that this person was saying at that time.
Yes.
So,
and I interject as we're coming up on, as we just celebrated Mother's Day. I think, the importance of, as Ms. Johnson said, and as I seek the story, because sometimes, we as parents and grandparents, we make everything look like it's a walk in the park. So the children figure they can just growing up and all they got to do is find this little machine and get the money out of it, not understanding everything it took to get the money in the machine. So, those generations that are looking up at us, we need to make sure they understand the struggle is real, but yours does not have to be as hard as mine was if you listen. If you trust me enough to listen when I share with you how you can prevent having to fall off this cliff that I've fallen off and I know what's down at the bottom. You don't want to do this because it'll take time off of your journey, So that's the other conversation. Sometimes we make it too easy for our children and they don't know what to do. They get a splinter in their finger,
It's true. And I'm with that being said, Christian, we're an hour and 6 minutes over. So we're 6 minutes over. So we're moving past our time, and we didn't announce that we might go a little bit over. But I want to give 2 examples of it. It's not only about the money. It's also about your family, what you believe in, and where you stand in your mindset as building what family looks like.
Yes.
And how that looks and building that out. I said that young man asked Christian about, why don't you come work for us? And someone was sitting next to him and heard that conversation and saw my response, saw my facial expression, because I was like, what you talking about? And that person said, and didn't know my son. No, he's building from a space that person has no idea, because this your family business. This your family name. He can talk about this business. And once he finishes law school, he can do this process with his eyes closed. And now where he's at the table, he's building his reputation. And it is okay. She was just like, I understand what you're thinking. She said, but he's going to stay on course because these are his constituents he's talking to. I looked at her and I said, you see it? She said, I see it. She said, he's not sitting in this room talking just for your company and your business name. He's building his constituents that will be voting for him one day. And that this is who he is. This is what he's based on. And the second thing, that was Thursday. Yesterday, Sharnae came in and she was voted to be the director for the basketball association for the school, for the boys basketball. Athletic director for the school. And the person whose position she took, he hadn't been coming to the meetings. And last night she said he came into the meeting and put it down and said her and her family behind her, she can do anything that I did for the last 25 years because she got a family.
It's
her
true.
Dad is out here.
That matters.
Her that counts.
That matters.
So that matters just as much as the money that we're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
Who you are in that community matters too.
Yes.
And who you are and who you're becoming. And you allow the world to see, that's good as gold. That's a whole nother conversation. But like I said, Christian, I'm giving you space that we can close out. Miss Janine, I'm going to send you, I'm working on a book to go with this series, a workbook and some more information. I'll send it out to you in the next week or so.
Okay, no problem.
Get a look. We will have, and hopefully you can come in because we're going to have a webinar. If you don't have, we can do it online, but it'll be a different type of format. and it
Okay.
comes with the workbook. People will be able to purchase the workbook, and we'll
Okay.
walk them through all of these steps.
Yes, ma'am.
And we'll do all of that, and it'll be a webinar people can sign up for. And this is the generational wealth webinar, and we'll have that conversation even more. We start
Okay.
webinars starting next month, where we add more classes on, we add more talking, and we're adding on a lot. So make sure you stay abreast. ITB is going to kind of be in a reformation stage over the next month or two. We will
Okay.
be in we'll be in West Virginia. We will be in Dallas. We will be in Oklahoma. And then we'll
Okay.
be back by July, and we'll be in Georgia. And then we'll be back by August to reopen and re-grand opening, because we will be opening up a new location
Right.
in this process too. So we will
Okay.
have 2 offices coming up. And so we're expanding, and we're really proud of what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
but these generational wealth conversations will not end here. We're
Oh,
putting
yeah.
it together as a webinar. You have
Okay.
more time. People have more opportunity to interact. It will be a Zoom situation where people can talk in and chime in, ask questions, and go through a workbook and,
Okay.
and walk through that process. And we have all that set up. So and
Oh.
tell your daughter hello for us. We miss
Yes,
y'all.
I will.
We love y'all. It was
Yes.
wonderful meeting y'all.
All right.
And
Yes, ma'am.
and so we'll be talking soon. So
Okay.
I'm tapping out. Christian, I'll let you go ahead and end us out.
Right. So thank you all for joining tonight. Everybody for commenting as well. We appreciate you all for tuning in and watching us on this Tuesday. We again are In the Beginning Incubator. We are a business incubator. We offer business services and coaching, mentoring, the whole 9. We are your one-stop shop for all business. I tell you what, that's what we do. If you're interested in any services, you could give us a call at 804-468-8141. Or you want to set up a consultation, or just kind of see what we do and look at our website, you can go to inthebeginningco.com. Go look at our website. Again, if you are interested in that Kiva loan, it is on our website. If you go to our website, you'll see the ITB loans page, and that will take you straight to the Kiva page, and you'll be able to create an account and start your application. And if you need help with your application, please let us know. We are a trustee, one of the only, I think we're the only trustee in our area working with the Metropolitan Business League that is helping with the loans. They came to us and asked us to bring the incubators and bring business-minded people to the table. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. This is specifically for people who come from a disenfranchised position and are looking for access to capital.
That's awesome. It's not limited to Virginia?
It is not limited to Virginia. You can do the loan application. It is a global. It's global.
All right.
So
you're about to have some floodgates happening.
Right. That is good. That is good. Yeah, we want them to happen.
Yes, ma'am.
And when we first did the actual onboarding thing, there's a lot of businesses that don't refer. They don't, and it's just money sitting out on the table. So please, come and do it. And if you need help and you need some things that might need to be fixed or changed, or you might need to have some more stuff, you can come to us and we can help you get those things in place. If you are interested, again, you can go to our website at inthebeginningco.com and find that tab. If you also want to get in contact with Ms. Johnson, you can email her at info@inthebeginningco.com. My email is christian@inthebeginningco.com. And I think that's everything. I want to thank you all again for joining. And
this was awesome.
Y'all be blessed.
Again, very good. Thank you.
All right.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you all. Good night. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I forgot. One last thing, please, if you're on our YouTube page or our Facebook page, please like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes.
That is something we got more followers on Facebook. I'm trying to get more people to like and subscribe on our YouTube page as well. So please like and follow and subscribe to all of our social media platforms as well. So
that sounds good.
That's the last thing. Y'all have a good night for real this time.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us for today's In the Beginning Incubator webinar. We hope you found inspiration, valuable insights, and practical strategies to apply to your own entrepreneurial journey. But the learning doesn't stop here. We invite you to join us again next Tuesday for another powerful session where we'll continue to spotlight incredible entrepreneurs and share knowledge that can help take your business to the next level. If you enjoyed today's webinar and found it valuable, don't keep it to yourself. Spread the word. Let others know what you learned and invite a friend, colleague, or fellow entrepreneur to join us next Tuesday. Once again, we appreciate you for being part of the In the Beginning Incubator community. Keep striving, keep growing, and we'll see you next Tuesday.